Welcome back to the Adventurous Advocates. Today we're going to step back in time and go to the Alafia River Rendezvous. It is my first time at this festival and I can't wait to learn all about it and share it with you guys. So come on, let's have an adventure. Alafia River Rendezvous gives visitors the opportunity to engage in a living experience of a portrayal of early American life. You can enjoy the music, games, handmade crafts, and demonstrations. You can visit the vendors that are selling primitive merchandise and period-specific food. It is such an immersive and incredible experience. Before we dive into all the fun, we really should cover a few of the basics. So admission for the day passes is cash only. Adults 16 and older are $10. Seniors 16 and older and children 4 to 15 are $5. And children 3 and under are free. Also, no special needs accommodations are offered. They will allow you to bring your wheelchair or ACV in. However, there's no one there to help you. And some of the tracks are very sandy. Full disclosure, my ACV did get stuck and I did need help getting it out of the sand a few times. They do allow service animals and they do have handicap parking, but you do need to drive down a dirt road. It is a very narrow dirt road that is two ways, and there are a lot of people and crowds to sort of navigate, but the handicap parking is close to the entrance. We came with our homeschool group and they had arranged to have a guided tour for our group. However, we were parking and the group left us. So we were told that we could join up with any tour guide. The tour guides start at various points throughout the day and that there's always a new one starting and anyone can jump in. There's no extra fee for the tours or anything like that. You just find a group that you want to follow around and go join it. We actually tried to do that, but the gentleman that was leading the tour that we were doing was making jokes that weren't terribly family friendly, and some of the jokes we weren't really comfortable with, so we opted for the option of just exploring by ourselves, and that was amazing because it gave us the opportunity to take the time that we wanted to take at each booth to ask questions of the vendors there and things like that and really learn about the culture.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm making pioneer scrub brushes out of saw palmetto bush.
Oh, cool.
Okay, the saw palmetto bush, this is what it looks like when it's growing. You see that? Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm doing it out of the stalk of the plant. This is what the stalk of the plant looks like. And what I'm doing, I'm getting a couple pieces out of this. And these are the tubulars that are in the plant that take the nutrients from the root system up to the leaves and vice versa. And I'm exposing those fibers to make a brush that the pioneers would have used around their homesteads.
Did they use them for like hair brushes and dish rub?
Just about anything that you would need a brush for. Basically, we use them out here for pots and pans to clean our cast iron because they don't scratch. So it doesn't remove the seasoning from the cast iron.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually awesome.
This is what's called a nail board, or back then it would be called a hackle. There's a lot of different styles of nail boards for making flaxing for shirts, and also combing out wool and things like that for spinning. So what I do is I cut a blank out of this here. You see there's a couple of these in there. I cut the blanks out, and then I keep them in water so they don't dehydrate, because the stalk of the plant is very heavy and full of moisture. So there's little tubulars in there, and I rake it across the hackle, and that exposes those fibers that are in there,
Oh, that's cool.
creating a brush. Pardon? No. Some of them will break off. I don't know. You can see every once in a while there's a little fiber in there that gets pulled out or broken off. But I just keep working that until there's about a 1/4 inch of fibers exposed. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's starting to expose the fibers.
That was awesome.
See, there's one that's pulling a little bit. But I keep doing that until I have a brush. It takes about 2 weeks for these to dry up enough before you can use them.
When you first come to the event, one of the first things you're going to want to do is grab a map and a schedule of activities. When you first enter, you have no idea how massive this thing is. It doesn't look that way. It's almost an optical illusion, but there are so many lanes and avenues and areas where they have different music and scheduled events and things like that. And if you don't know where you're going, or you might miss things, and that would be really a shame because it's all pretty cool.
This is a bottom draft brick permanent structure forge. It's not a movable one like a lot of out west would have used. We have a couple of those over in the corner over there, but this is what would have been in a small village. So we would be running. This is where they would bring all your different tools that needed to be fixed, all the blades that broke. Since the Americans didn't have enough blacksmiths, bladesmiths, farriers, wheelwrights, wagon wrights, coopers, the American blacksmith became it. He was everything.
My favorite part is definitely looking at all the historical stuff that you can trade for and buy, and looking at all the food that's so historical. It's amazing.
So what I do is I look in thrift stores for 100% wool clothing, and then when I can find it, I collect them. It might take me years, you know, it's Florida. When I collect them, I wash them, and then I cut them in 2-inch strips, which is very easy to cut a strip. You just do a little snip with your scissors every 2 inches and rip them. It's really fun to rip the fabric. When I get done ripping the fabric, I can start braiding it into the rugs. I don't know if you can see it from here, and I'll get the 2 little thingies.
Oh, very cool.
So we've got the 2-inch strips, and we're going to fold the rough edges in. And then we start braiding, just like if we were braiding hair, keeping our rough edges in.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm not keeping the rough edges in because I'm just demoing, but
Right.
basically it's like that.
How do you get the circles to stick together once you get the long chain of braid?
Oh, we'll lace them together.
Oh, very cool.
So if we start like this a little further, and we want to add more, I added at an angle like that, so we don't have
very
that big
cool.
bunch. And then
Very
I'd snip that.
Very cool.
And then we'd go around a corner, so your center of your braided rug is how big it's going to be. And when you want to go around a corner, you would do 2 rights. So you're just doing 2 on the same side. And 3 over. So this looks a little messy because I'm not doing it.
Oh, you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you.
So you can turn your corners. The other thing over here is floor cloths. They would recycle sails from sailing ships, and they would paint the floor coverings, because a lot of the floors back then, they were log cabins. They may even have dirt floors and even wooden floors, so you'd have it would look like you had a marble floor.
That is awesome. This event does feature an array of competitions. They have tomahawk and knife throwing. They also have archery and period-specific shooting competitions. Unfortunately, you have to be an actual camper. You can't be a day visitor and compete. The day visitors can watch and are encouraged to watch from a distance. They do have safe railings, so you're not going to be at any risk while you watch, but at the same time, unless you're camping and adhering to the camping rules and things like that, then you will not be allowed to compete.
Well, the drum represents to us the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and the songs that we sing are typically songs of praise, thanksgiving, and prayer.
Okay.
Some songs are for if a village had to move, then the drummers would sit and play a traveling song, and that would tell everybody in the village it's time to break down and get ready to move. They have songs about the weather, the snow song. They have songs about animals, the crane song.
I was the bourgeois, or the person in charge of the Mountain Man bourgeois for the Mountain Man camp at the Olympics in 2002 in Salt Lake City.
Oh, very
And
cool.
So I had 75 volunteers that came and helped me. We had 6 teepees and 4 shelters that we set up, and we met people from all over the world and did demonstrations, and it was great. We probably had about 85,000 people that came to that event, over 17 days, and it was cold, and that we wore our winter gear, and we just had a great time with the people.
Oh, that's so exciting. Thank you so much. One thing you're definitely going to want to keep in mind is that they do not have regular restrooms like you would think of. They have quote unquote outhouses, which are porta-johns. So if you have a child like mine who absolutely refuses to go in a porta-john, this may be something you want to keep in mind, because it is a walk all the way in, and to navigate this, and then to go to the car, and then to try to drive to town, it can be an issue, and accidents can happen. So you may want to bring extra clothes, and you may want to go ahead and do some social stories or prepping ahead of time to let your child know that this will be the only bathroom option at this event.
This is how they used to do it. This would have been, the cards would not have been this fancy.
This is a more modern wheel. That is a traditional.
This is a traditional wheel. What she's doing is
Very
Navajo.
traditional.
It's very traditional. The inkle weaving we know goes back at least as far as Shakespeare.
Very cool.
Because he writes about the inkle weavers. Now, there's some argument about whether it's the same kind of inkle weaving, but I prefer to think that yes, it is.
And she has a spinning top there. That's also very traditional. These types of devices that are not mechanical would have been the early forms of making yarn. And they were still carried forward even after the spinning wheel came about, because they're easy to carry around, portable.
A lot less expensive.
A lot less expensive.
Very
And
cool.
the other thing you need to remember is that weaving is yarn intensive. It takes a lot of weaving. To keep a weaver in fiber, in yarn that's been spun, it would take anywhere from five or more spinners.
Really?
Full time, 10 to 12 hours a day spinning.
To keep up
Wow.
with
So if you were doing a weaving shop, you would have to have spinners on hand.
I'm also inspired by the number of individuals that came with their own talents and crafts and combined them once at the event to make something beautiful. These group of musicians are not normally a band, but look how beautifully they play. I think it's important to take a quick minute to talk about the sensory issues associated with this event. There are loud popping noises that may be an issue for some people that need to bring headphones and earphones and things like that. Also, the tents and streets can become very busy randomly and sporadically. People may be brushing up against you, but also people will come interact with you. They may ask you to touch their hat or hold their cane or things like that. And that may be difficult for some individuals. So you need to prepare ahead of time and talk about what you will say if someone asks you to do something you're not comfortable with. It's okay to say, I really enjoy this event and appreciate you, but I'm not interested in touching your things. It's okay to set those boundaries, and keep in mind, if you do touch their things, they may have an unexpected reaction that may be a little unsettling to individuals with autism or things like that. So we had a situation where a lady asked Chloe to touch her cane that had a skunk on it, and then she jolted it at her really quickly like the skunk was trying to get her, and that was very, very, very difficult for Chloe, and she had a very big emotional reaction. And so this is something where I hadn't actually thought about that before we went there, because Chloe usually doesn't have these kind of issues as much as maybe her brother or things like that. But that was something I thought, since we had that issue, you may want to pre-think it. You may want to have scripts and have pre-established boundaries in that conversation with your children.
Some of the moisture in here if you guys want.
Oh, very cool. Chloe Bear, come feel this.
You can feel how it's starting to soften up. It's still damp in there.
That's awesome.
So that's why I have to keep working. Now, white is the natural color of the skin. All skin's going to be somewhat creamy white. In this state, though, which you see the white skin over there is finished, very delicate to water. If you get it wet, the fibers would glue back together and harden up on you.
Really?
You have to start all over again. So to make everyday kind of clothing out of it, that's probably not going to work out too well.
Right.
So the last stage of the process is actually smoking of the skin. And that's where we force smoke to penetrate through the hide. And there's a chemical reaction between the chemicals in the smoke and the skin. Seals all the fibers in this loosened state. Once smoked, you can actually wash all this and it'll always come back soft. So all the brown ones are the smoked ones there. That's the finished product.
If you need to leave for any reason, they do offer hand stamps that allow re-entry for the same day. So if you need to go to the restroom but don't want to use the porta-john, or you prefer to go eat in town, you actually can do that and come back as long as you got your hand stamped. I feel like we've stepped back in time. What an incredible adventure. We've seen some amazing performers, some fine craftsmanship, seen some competitions, and so much more. I particularly loved all the storytelling and drum circles. It was an absolutely amazing experience that I highly recommend. So go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. And until next time, stay adventurous.